Hey guys, so welcome back. This video is going to be a short, quick one, just to talk about the differences between the Clockspring assembly for the S197 versus the S550. And I think the most noticeable change you guys will notice is that the S197 is a single stock assembly where you have everything in one single multifunction control. And the S550 has two stalks, one for your turn signals and high beams, and the other for your wipers. Now, without getting into the actual physical differences between the two, there's kind of two major differences in how they operate. So the first is that the way your turn signals work, and this actually is similar between the two, is that, and I'm sure you guys notice this while you're driving, when you turn your turn signal, so right now it's like as if I'm making a left turn, you would make your left turn, right? And then when you turn back, you're going to notice the stalk will pop itself back up once you would have gone through the turn, right? So right there. The same thing actually goes with the S550. So as if I'm making a left turn, I would do my turn. Well, I'm actually all the way turn left, but you'll notice that when I turn past a certain point, the stalk turns back up. Okay? That has to do with a little tab on the side of the clock spring that allows that to take place. The reason I'm highlighting this is because this clock spring, and you know, the clock spring actually is just this small circular part, not the entire assembly. And this clock spring, which actually isn't screwed in, they're different sizes. Because they're different sizes, you cannot interchange the clock springs with the clock spring assemblies. Okay? You have to use the entire assembly. That's really important, especially for my project where I'm going to be using working on using the heated steering wheel, because this particular clock spring actually comes with this separate port with a whole separate ribbon in there to support the higher gauge heating element. And that is only inside of this clock spring. I could probably add it to this, but to date, I haven't found somewhere I can source that type of ribbon cable. And so I'm kind of relegated to using this particular clock spring, which means I have to use this assembly. So that's the first thing. And if you guys are curious, I can actually show you this little groove here. So you'll notice as I turn it, you see this little tiny lip. That's what actually catches on your turn signal. And you'll see there's an opposite one as I go far enough right here. That is the one that catches when you turn the other way. So I'll pull the assembly up here. It's this little nub here that it catches on to disengage the turn. So notice when I pull it, it pops out. Well, when that tab comes by, it basically just forces it back in. Again, this clock spring is slightly smaller. It's just probably about maybe 1/4 of an inch diameter smaller than the S550. And so that little tab doesn't catch. And quite frankly, this one wouldn't even fit in this housing. So that's the first major difference. The second major difference is around something called the steering column control module. The steering column control module is essentially a small subcomputer that interprets all of the signals within the clock spring and the actual controls and processes them before putting them in the car. So it's interesting because you see some of this in the S197, where if you've seen my videos on how the actual switches within the steering wheel work, they work off of, changing the resistance, which impacts the voltage and the current within the actual circuit. And then there's a computer that interprets that signal. Well, they took that idea and ramped it up to the maximum in the S550, where now instead of this control module just simply being or sorry, the steering column assembly just simply being a place for the circuits to live, and all of these work off of continuity, right? There's no resistors in this actual this column assembly. In this one, you actually have a computer in this assembly that interprets that signal. So I'm going to show that to you guys right now. Let me just find my correct screwdriver and start disassembling this. Okay, one. Here we go. So you need a Torx 10. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take these 4 out. Now, I've already loosened them, so, you know, it's going to take you a little while longer to unscrew this. Once we have that out, though, we can pull our clock spring out. Now, the important thing to note, and how you know that there is a steering column control module, is notice on my old clock spring, I have, minus the airbag, I have 2 plugs. I have the plug right here, which is the mobile plug that goes with your steering wheel. And then I have the side plug here, which is the one that goes to the dash side. That's it. Now, on the S550, now this is an S550 one, including the heated steering wheel. If you don't have the heated steering wheel, you're probably going to be missing this one and this one. But still, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different plugs. Okay? As I mentioned before, this is for your heating element, and this is for your heating element. This right here is the steering wheel side plug. And this steering wheel plug actually has 14 pins in it. It's got 14 pins. 4 of those pins come out of this plug. 10 of those pins come out of here, and those 10 pins actually go into this right here. Now, this back here is your steering column control module. It's where the information goes in. So, how do we find that? We're going to flip this over, and we're going to take a look at the back. Now, the first thing I will say is I've started to do some modification to this. If this is your first time with one of these, this right here is going to be covered. Just the same as over here, this will be covered up. So just keep that in mind if you feel like yours looks different. Now, from here, there is an additional 10-pin plug here that comes out of the backside of the steering column control module. And that allows it to go to the dash and actually send the signals off to the thing. But the major difference, and I think it's important for you guys to understand, is if you're doing any sort of work where you want to convert your S197 to use this, what I have found the easiest is we need to find a way to completely bypass this control module. This control module converts all of these things into a CAN bus signal that then gets routed to the different other components and modules in the car. And so if you want to continue to use this, then you're going to have to upgrade your other control modules. And to be quite frank, I don't even know if that's possible. So my plan is to avoid that, but that is something to keep in mind. Now, just for the sake of us being here together, I am going to show you guys what this looks like to tear this down. So once again, it is the same Torx 10 screwdriver, and there are 4 screws around the outside of this housing. Now, once you get these 4 screws out, I want you to know it's not easy street after this. There are a plethora of tabs and things that you need to unclip in order to get in. There's 2 here. I believe there's 1 over here. Again, if yours isn't cut open like mine, this tab here would be hanging on. If we flip it over, you would actually have another 2 tabs. I believe 1 is in here. 1 might be over here. So try to use a pick or something that's going to allow, I think there's also 2 more tabs up here. Try to use a pick or something that will help you keep parts of the housing open unless you don't want it to clip back in. Now I've removed all of the other clips except for these two because of the fact that there's 4 screws here and because I'm modifying this. So you'll undo those two clips, or all 6 of them, and then you pull this out. That's going to give you access here to your steering column control module, which is this. It does have a ribbon cable here, which allows it to connect to the 2 different stalks. Now I'm going to pull this out. What you're going to notice is my pieces are going to come out nice and smooth. On yours, if you haven't made any modifications, the first thing you actually need to do is you need to unscrew the 2 screws on the side here and remove your stalks. Okay? Why is that? It's because on this side, your stalk is going to have a connector which is going to actually connect the board inside the stalk to this steering column control board. So when you pull this out, you're going to feel it slide out of a plug. The plugs are black. When you see me pull mine out, it's going to be white with this tape. That's because I've already modified this. I've already changed it. But yours will come right out. Okay? We're going to do the same thing on the other side. And you'll notice the same thing on my other stock. You'll notice instead of black, it's going to be white. Once again, I've made modifications to this so that it works with the S197. And so once you have that out, last but not least, you can pop this out. And your steering column control module, this is it in its purest form. This is where it does all the interpretation of signal. Here's the black connectors that I mentioned. That, you know, you would have the opposite one on here that it would slide in, and then over here the same thing would slide in here. So that's a teardown of the S550 steering column control module. The steering column, I guess you call it the wiper assembly, the Clockspring assembly. What you guys will see in later videos is me doing some modification work to this. I'm going to be setting it up so that these wipers actually work with the S197, and we can actually get this whole assembly set up and in the car to give it a test. All right, well, I appreciate you guys coming, and I will catch you in the next one. See ya.